everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 405, Best NFL Playoff Round Ever. Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Well, it was a really fun football weekend, and I'm going to turn it over to Eddie because he has on, although you cannot see, his 49ers hat. So he is pumped up from that win, I am sure. So let's get it out of the way now. Give me how excited you are and how many I told you so's.
Well, I will say we'll do a little bit of housekeeping first because, yes, you can't see it here, but you could see it if you go and follow us on Instagram and Twitter, search for the Big Chill Podcast, and on our YouTube videos, you will see clips from this very episode. So if you do want to see the hat in all its glory, you can head over there and get to see it. And some other bits of housekeeping. If you listen to us via Spotify, you might have thought that we have had no new episodes for about 6 weeks. As it turns out, there's
Thanks,
a little bit of an issue. Yeah, a little bit of an issue with our podcast host and episodes being uploaded to Spotify. So the last 4 episodes, all 4 first episodes of the 4th season, had not made it to Spotify yet. But this episode will be there. If you want to listen to those 4 missing episodes, you probably just need to go to a different podcast platform. But from now on, all the episodes will be appearing on Spotify. But am I excited? Yes, I thought it was an enjoyable. I mean, as you touched on, every game was enjoyable to watch. Every game had an exciting ending. The Niners game, I mean, it wasn't the prettiest of the 4 games, that's for sure, but it was intense. I was out in a bar watching it. I may or may not have told several Packers fans to suck it at one moment in time, but then made up with shots. It was all very amicable, but no, it was enjoyable.
So you are supporting a good franchise that has made it to Super Bowls, won Super Bowls, consistently good team over the years. How is this ranking so far as the Niners continue to win and progress into playoffs in your level of excitement in watching it?
It's obviously different from some of the versions of the Niners in the past. Obviously, in the 90s, you had a dominant Niners where this was the expectation. This is different in the sense that although they came into the season as definitely playoff hopefuls and Super Bowl hopefuls, if you went back to midseason, there was a moment when it looked like they probably wouldn't even make the playoffs and were going to probably finish bottom of their division. So to be in a position now where they're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, playing against a team who they give themselves every chance of beating. I'm not saying they should be favorites, but definitely giving
Beat them
themselves
the last 6
not
times.
like there's some massive under. Sure. And 3 weeks ago. But it's not as if there's some massive underdogs. But I actually, for me as a sports fan, I always enjoy it more when it's unexpected. Like the journey is a much more enjoyable process when you exceed expectations. Because if you come into this season, I don't know, for example, how you could have really enjoyed being a Patriots fan all that much over the last 2 decades. Because basically, you don't get that much pleasure out of winning because you expect it. And then it's just disappointment when you lose.
So we'll get to the games, which were absolutely insanely exciting. But the last question I wanted then for the Niners, as a Niners fan now, are you content with how far they made, or will you be disappointed if they lose next week?
I think because it's the Rams, I'll be disappointed if they lose. Both because I really don't like the Rams, and also just because they have been so successful against them in recent years. So you kind of go into it feeling a little bit like they own them. That worries me because then you do have this, things have to even up at some stage. And if you're a Rams fan, you would say, hey, good for you. You beat us 6 times in a row in the regular season. But if we win the NFC Championship game, that counts for nothing. So that bit worries me slightly. I think I'll be disappointed now if they lose to the Rams. I would then be disappointed if they lost in the Super Bowl to the Bengals. But if they lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, that's fine. That's a good season. I mean, if you recall, beginning of the season, Chiefs Niners was my Super Bowl prediction.
And do you remember what mine was?
Chiefs Niners, I believe.
Chiefs Rams.
Okay. Well, there you go. So one of us could be right.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of impressive that we're both in. Like, yeah, we're both in it.
And I can't remember what Sam's pick was, but
who
cares anymore?
Fucking Sam. So yeah, it was an awesome weekend, and I'm so happy I was able to watch the majority of the games. I just missed one quarter of the Chiefs game, the second quarter. I had an eye on it, but I had to miss some of it. But other than that, that has to go down without a doubt as the best divisional round of NFL there is.
See, I want to correct that. I think that's the best divisional round becomes quite specific, really. I think that's the best round of playoff games ever. Any round.
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, it was insane. You had every game ended on the last play of the game. That's the only time that's ever happened.
As people as smart as people would point out on Twitter, every game ends on the final play of the game, Frank.
Yeah. But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. They know what you mean. Everyone knows what you mean. But the number of times I saw someone make that statement on Twitter, and someone in the comments had to go, every game ends on the last play. It's like you know what the implication is. But yeah. The final play was the winning play.
Yes, there you go. 3 of which, the first 3 were on walk-off game-winning field goals, and then obviously the Chiefs winning in overtime. What was really awesome was you had those first 3 games. While I would say the Bucs game wasn't the most exciting for the most part of that game, the fourth quarter obviously makes up for it, where they come back and kind of have this back and forth at the end. But you had 3 games that ended with the last second game-winning field goal. And then you go into that fourth game thinking, man, those were 3 great games. Can it get better? And then it did. And then that, arguably now, people are saying that is a top 5 best NFL game ever. And I know you will disagree because there's no defense. I understand that, but you're a downer.
No. That's not why I disagree. That was a really enjoyable game to watch. The fourth quarter of that game was insane. The final 2 minutes of that game were insane. If you want to tell me that's the greatest final 2 minutes in NFL history, I will take it. Not necessarily the greatest defensive play, but I'll still take it as like just incredible, like a absolute roller coaster for the final few minutes of that game. However, the first 3 quarters were good, but you weren't holding on to the edge of your seat for the first 3 quarters. It was a pretty good football game. And it gets pushed over the edge because that fourth quarter and that final 2-minute ending. But I think there's a little bit of a recency bias there, just because of how exciting the finish was, and because it just happened, in putting it into a group that I don't think it probably deserves to be in. Great game. I'm not trying to zag when everyone's zigging. I'm not trying to do that thing. But genuinely, the first 3 quarters were fine.
But they were good. It wasn't as if nothing happened those first 3 quarters. You had some nice touchdown scores. You had some good defensive stops. I think you had the build up to that fourth quarter, because obviously the end of games is what always makes games great when it comes down to it. But you're right. You can't just have 3 quarters of them just kneeling on the ball and then saying in the fourth quarter, let's play. But I think in this one, at least, you had some nice plays in those first 3 quarters. You had some nice throws, some nice runs. You had 4 touchdowns in that first half. So you had some scoring, but the ending that was just insane. I want to save that one just because I was so excited watching that game. So let's start in chronological order and start with the Bengals.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think
it was the worst. It was the worst game of the 4.
Agreed.
And that's not a knock on it. It was the least interesting. I kind of walked away from it. I don't know how the Titans lost. I felt like throughout the game, the Titans were the better team. And it felt very much in the fourth quarter as if they were about to grab take a stranglehold on the game. and felt like they had every opportunity to win it, and instead just gave it away. And that's not, I know over the course, regular listeners will think I'm some Bengals hater. I'm not. Congratulations to them on making it as far as they have done. But I think they probably have gone much further than they deserve to have gone. And they've taken, they're riding their luck and they're taking their chances. And that's good. And who knows how far you can get. And that's a good sign for their future too. But I think the Titans will be sitting there wondering how they did not win that game.
Yeah. So a few things I'll touch on with that kind of piggyback. The Titans, I think, will be extremely disappointed. So one of the facts I found, maybe you'll like it, Eddie, is that they're now 0-3 when they're the number one seed. They have yet to win a game when the Titans are the number one seed. So that seems to be a death sentence for them. The other interesting fact is since 1990, Ryan Tannehill is now the third QB to throw an interception on his first pass and on his last pass. The unfortunate thing for Tannehill, he didn't play a good game, but he didn't play an atrocious game where you'd see the stat of 3 interceptions and kind of say like, oh my God, this guy must be the worst QB in the planet. Some of those, one was a nice play, one was a great tip, the other one was a terrible throw. So he didn't play extremely bad. It's just unfortunate that he had 3 turnovers where even that one that was batted up in the air, I say the majority of the time that DN doesn't catch it and run it 50 yards down. They just kind of got lucky on that play and they were close to scoring there too. That could have been a whole different game. They put that in there. That's the first part I think is a little unfortunate for the Titans. The second part is we discussed how good Derrick Henry would be coming back. And I don't think it was just me. Maybe it was. He did not look like he had that extra gear at all. I've never seen him get ankle tackled more in a game than that game. There was one where it was like a 4th and 1, and the guy just kind of grabbed his foot and he fell down. He just didn't seem to have that like 6th gear of just pushing through the wall and getting those extra yards when he needed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's always a hard one to judge because you're obviously paying even closer attention to his performance and you're looking for things that go, oh, look, he's rusty. I agree with you. The bigger question there is, do they win that game if he doesn't play? And if they just keep doing what they've been doing for the past few weeks, there's an argument there. Maybe they could do. At the same time,
Foreman, the backup had, real quick, Foreman, the backup had 4 carries for 65 yards. So
yeah, but
maybe
weird.
There's something to that.
But also just weird play calling at times. I know you're talking about the 4th and 1 when they got stuffed, which was a big play because that was the drive that could have put them really in control of the game. But the weirder play call was on the 3rd and 1 when the decision was to let Ryan Tannehill keep the ball. I don't know how, when you have a run game that's as efficient as theirs, that your go-to call on 3rd and 1. Now, I guess if you're defending the coach, it looked like it was an option, and he's decided to hold on to it, so you put the responsibility there on Tannehill. But why do you even put him in a position you have? I mean, put it this way. I think if you just hand the ball to Henry twice there, and you say, good on you guys. If you stop him twice and he can't pick up 1 yard, that's great defense. But we would back it that on 2 attempts he's picking up a little bit more than a yard. That to me is the thing that surprised me on that. But overall, I think the Titans just scrappy, but every time it looked like they were going to put themselves in a position to kind of pull ahead and take control, they would mess up. But credit to the Bengals. I hate being someone who just focuses on what the team that lost did wrong. The Bengals took their chances and they were good but not spectacular, and they won. I give them no chance next week, but they won.
Well, I mean, we'll obviously get into that next podcast, considering they have already beaten the Chiefs in Arrowhead pretty recently. But you're right. I think we should talk a little bit about the Bengals winning. I'll start off with the negative. They're going to get Joe Burrow killed. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, and I think he's looking great. You have to remember, this is a guy who only played how many games last season? 6, 7, like half the year, and then was out. So he's basically still like he's 1.5 years in right now. He didn't even have a full rookie season. and he looks like a seasoned QB out there. He's hitting throws. He's trying to hit tight windows. He's a little bit of a gunslinger. I'm very impressed, and I think he has a bright future if he doesn't get his leg torn off. I mean, they had 9 sacks, 8 of which were on 4-man rushes. That's the most, I think, since they said like 1970 that a team's had on just a standard 4-man rush. 8 sacks. Now, I know you're going to say, I think what I'm going to say, some of them he needs to get rid of the ball or just take the sack. I agree with that. I think that's something that
sometimes he turns
around and runs backwards.
He turns a 3-yard sack into a 13-yard sack, and it was nearly costly in that game because he knocked them out of field goal position twice with horrific sacks, where it was like either throw the ball away because you can see there's no play here. If you have the sort of awareness to turn around and run, you should have the awareness to throw the ball away. That's the first way to be sitting down with him. But yeah, I mean, that's not entirely on him, but he sometimes turns bad plays into horrific plays.
Yep. And I think that is something with time that he'll get better in, because, you watch someone like Mahomes or Brady, they are so quick when they get to the line to be able to understand what the defense is going to do and kind of have in their head the 3 or 4 different scenarios and where they're going to go to each scenario if that happens. Where if that rusher comes in, Brady already knows if he's coming this way, that guy's got to be open. I'm just going to throw it there. Whereas Burrow, I think, is still kind of trying to figure that out a little bit. So with time, I think that'll be better. But I mean, honestly, at that rate, I don't know how much time he's got left, because you're going to get hit and you're going to seriously injure him again. I mean, this is a guy who already tore his ACL once because he was the most sacked through however many weeks it was, and now he was the most sacked again this year. So that's my main worry with the Bengals. But they did look good, and they're an exciting team and they're fun. And I mean, the AFC right now looks like it's going to be in pretty good shape with the talent level that you have at some of these QB spots compared to the NFC. So, and we can kind of discuss in the offseason. We have nothing else to talk about, but so yeah, that was
I think a little bit of the Burrow love is a little too much for me right now, I will say. Not specifically from you, I just mean in general. And it's the advantage of winning. Winning fixes everything, and winning papers over all the cracks. And if he'd had identical performances and they'd lost, I think people would be critiquing aspects of his game that they are currently happy to overlook. And
that is a great segue, Eddie, to the next game, where I could argue Joe Burrow is a gamer, and I will throw up the question to you. Is Aaron Rodgers just not a gamer?
Who predicted that this would be a talking point at some point this season? I told you it's what we see from Aaron Rodgers. And then what happens almost every season is he the greatest regular season quarterback of all time? Is he not clutch? Whatever criticism you want to throw at him. I think it's difficult to be too. I don't think he was the reason they lost. Look, fundamentally, they lost because of their special teams in that game. If they just don't have catastrophic special teams plays, they win. And, that maybe the Niners find other ways to score because the pressure of the game is different. As we always talk about, you can't just say, well, this one play in the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth is the reason the outcome was such. But, when you have a blocked field goal and a blocked punt that gets returned for a touchdown, there's not a lot of times where you can say those two things happened and you still won. It would be rare. So I'm not going to put all the responsibility on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, but it certainly wasn't a spectacular performance. Like, the weather conditions probably weren't conducive to him being spectacular, but I'm not going to. The real question is that the last time we see Aaron Rodgers play for the Packers?
Yeah, I personally think so. There's a lot of talk already about how tight they are on their salary, and there's absolutely no way they can keep both Rodgers and Davante Adams. And I think with either one of them knowing that fact, I don't think either one of them will want to stay if the other is not there. As much as you may think Jordan Love is the next great Packers quarterback in line, I don't think Davante Adams would still want to stay without Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think Rodgers would stay without Adams. So I think he's gone. You touch on the fact that, we always say you can't let one play say that was the reason because there's so much going on. and everyone obviously brings up the blocked field goal, the blocked punt, and all that. But I actually think the Niners didn't win the game, but saved the game and kept them in it in the first quarter with that Fred Warner fumble. Because that was a time when
Forced fumble, you mean?
Forced fumble, yeah. The Packers had just driven down the field that first drive. I mean, just looked methodically drove down. That was an impressive first drive. Niners get the ball, punt. I think they were like negative 11 yards on that first drive. Did not look good. Packers got the ball back, drove about 30 yards down the field, and looked like same result's going to happen here. And then Warner forces that fumble, and from then on, the Packers just did not look the same. So maybe it wasn't that, but to me, if he doesn't force that fumble, I think there's a very good chance the Packers continue to steamroll and they're up 14-0. And now you have two very different sides where you have a team down 14 in a pressure situation that maybe they can't come back from, and a Packers team who just said, we just score on these first two drives. This is different than when they stuffed us these last three games and they don't own us anymore. So I think that was a huge play that doesn't get enough attention to really stop it right there and basically reset that game.
I mean, look, I think when you have a low-scoring game like that, there were a number of big plays by the Niners defense. Key sacks, key stops on third down. Over the course of that game, I think you could highlight. I don't disagree with you because 14-0 in those conditions is probably game over.
Momentum.
Because it's not even the momentum argument, but literally you would have known going in playing in those conditions, if you get to 21, you've probably won the game. Because it's going to be hard to see. It's going to take time. There's going to be a lot of drives that stall just because it's not going to be easy to move the ball. And so, yeah, I don't disagree with you. And look, Jimmy G didn't look good. George Kittle didn't look very good. He had one really bad drop, which on what would have been a big play down the middle, a drop that you would just never expect George Kittle to make.
Yeah. But he did come through when it mattered.
He did. But, I mean, they feel, and look, it was a big special teams win. I mean, that was a game won by the special teams. You have 0 points on offense, and, you get some key stops on special teams as well in terms of a blocked field goal. The special teams won that game. And I don't know if do you like this new thing Robbie Gould's doing where he's kicking pregame field goals while the other team did you see him while the Packers were being announced and coming onto the field? And then the week before he did it while the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders danced in their pregame show. Guess this is his thing, just total disrespect for the opposition as he practices field goals.
Yeah. Or the other side is it disrespect to him that's his allotted practice time and they just said, screw it, we're just going to celebrate right in front of you.
No, which I think that is probably the thing, is he's not being given sufficient time to do that. But yeah, but no, I really enjoyed it. And I actually had to say, I had to rewatch the game only because obviously it was late at night here. So I probably wasn't in a state of mind where necessarily my analysis of the game could have been that accurate with my ability to recall elements. So I rewatched the entire game yesterday.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, just to kind of go back to that point, is if he's a gamer or not. He had a QBR of 19.4. That wasn't as bad as Jimmy G, who was at 11, but for a guy that's consistently in the 60 to 70, 80 range, that is a huge drop off, and I think it was the worst he's had in over a year, performance wise. So not very impressive, and I think you're letting him get away with it a little bit. I do think if the reason you are where you are is because of Aaron Rodgers, I think the reason you lose has to largely revolve around him as well. And he just did not step up to me that game enough. And there's no reason why he can't score 2 touchdowns and win a game.
I think that's fair and unfair because it's hard if you carry the team, it's hard to be too critical of you should have carried the team more. And the reality is the Packers are as good as they are pretty much solely because of Aaron Rodgers. And I think we'll find that out next year if Jordan Love is lining up under center for them for 18 weeks. So I think we'll see that, that will be the ultimate test in a sense of Aaron Rodgers' legacy, is how quickly they can transition to another quarterback and how big the drop off is once he is gone. A little bit like Tom Brady in New England. How much, was it you? Is it the system? Is it just that there are players who maybe don't get the attention or the credit that they deserve because Aaron Rodgers gets all of it? There's always that risk that we kind of think it's him, Devontae Adams and a bunch of scrubs, and maybe they're not scrubs. Maybe they're a lot better than we think they are, but because that's the narrative we've kind of created for Aaron Rodgers' existence in Green Bay, they all get overlooked. But we'll see. But yeah, good win.
Are you slightly concerned Jimmy G hasn't thrown a touchdown pass this playoffs yet?
Not really, because they don't need him to. It's not the way the team is built, where the run game, it's a run-first offense. I'm not delighted that they played a playoff game and had 0 points, like 0 touchdowns from their offense. That's not ideal. But I'm, if you told me that Jimmy G does not throw a touchdown pass again this season, I'm not going to come out and say that means the Niners have not won the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. I think I could say it. They haven't. Last point I want to make is I praise Shanahan a lot. I think he's a great coach. And I think one of the reasons he's a good coach is he relies on the players that got him there for big plays. And I loved that call with, what was it, 3rd and 7 at the end of the game where they get into field goal range to give it to Deebo Samuel on that run. I mean, Deebo Samuel him and Kittle have carried this team. And when you needed a big run, you put it in his hands. And I think if it weren't him, I don't think he gets that first down. He made a nice play, a nice move, got past that one guy, and then pushed through to get those few extra yards that I don't think the other running back would have gotten. So I love that play call. And I think that's kind of what separates him from some other coaches is he, go with what works, go with what's been working all year, who's been working all year, and don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, and similarly, in a point that we've touched on before, what he is very good is getting his playmakers involved. So, what you can count on with him is one way or another. Even if he figures out, well, Jimmy G, the pass game is not working today. All right, then we're just going to have to get everyone involved in the run game. That's it. That's what we got to do. And he will find a way to get every one of the playmakers involved in those games.
So let's switch course to their opponents.
Yeah, a game that for a long time looked very one-sided and kind of boring, and then had, in a sense, the craziest fourth quarter of them all, even more so than the Bills and the Chiefs, because it kind of came out of nowhere. There was just a change in momentum in that game that I think very few people could have seen coming. But all of a sudden, it went from a blowout to a game where the Buccaneers will feel like they gave the game away, which if you told them that with 16, 17 minutes to go, that they were going to get to the end of the game and feel like they blew it, I think they wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah, so there's a few talking points here. I guess one, since we just talked about Shanahan, I would like to bring up McVay here. And yes, the Rams did win, but as you mentioned, they were in cruise control and let the Bucs back into this game. And a lot of it has to do with McVay just being super conservative and just deciding that he's just going to run the ball every down. And I get the concept of why coaches do that, but in reality, it always seems to backfire. And this is a very unique situation in terms of that it backfired because they were fumbling and making it even easier for the Bucs to get back in the game. But you had Stafford was playing well, and their passing game was doing well. I mean, they were passing the ball pretty efficiently.
I'm going to disagree with you. Slightly. In midway through that fourth quarter, Stafford had the look on his face of a guy who the lights were a little bit too bright for him. You can say what you want, but he started those. His pupils were dilated. Those eyes were darting all over the field.
Oh
You know,
God.
if Sam Darnold probably would have walked out there with him and told him he was seeing ghosts, but he looked like a guy who you went, uh-oh, are we just about to find out where Matthew Stafford's limit is? Because he's never been here before, and it shows. And look, I kind of agree. You know, like Shanahan, right, famously made this mistake in the Super Bowl. Everyone told him, "Why didn't you just start running the ball? You would have won." And then his argument was, "Well, we kept doing the thing that got us ahead. We kept doing the thing that we're supposed to do. We're a team. We played the way we've always played." I think a little bit you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Whatever you do, if it ends up not working, people are going to say, "Why did you change?" And then if you don't change, "Why didn't you change?" So, you know, they were bad fumbles. I think they were good. You know, the Cooper Cup fumble, who would have seen it coming? In a certain, someone who's been so reliable, kind of a weird play. Also, if you're a Rams fan, maybe a little bit unlucky that the ball doesn't just go out of bounds, which I think 9 times out of 10 in that scenario, it goes out and you go, "Ooh, that was dodged a bullet there." Dust ourselves off. Good thing that happened so close to the sidelines. But I think the concerning thing for the Rams is now they've blown 2 big leads in the past couple of weeks. And that's not a good habit to be getting yourselves into, because then you will start to get a little bit nervous if over the point of the next 3 weeks, if they're in the fourth quarter up 10, it's going to be hard for themselves to think, yeah, we're in total control. We've got this. No problems.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, I think it gets back to the fact, though, that I didn't see the dilating of the pupils with Matthew Stafford. I mean, I think overall he looked like he had a great game. He was 28 for 38. His only issue was that fumble snap, and I don't know if that was really on him or the center. That was just a colossal F up. But you brought Matthew Stafford in because that was the missing piece, right? You didn't think you could win anymore with Jared Goff. You needed to upgrade. You upgraded, and then after that fumble, 11 out of the next 13 plays were run plays. So if you're going to upgrade and bring him in and say he's the key to winning it, you have to ask him to do something. You can't say, like, we trust you, but we're going to run it 11 out of our next 13 plays and let them back into the game. So that, to me, I mean, you're right. He's new to this. He could fall under the pressure, but I think you have to try with him a little. I like Stafford, I think, a little more than you do. I think he is very good, but I just don't like that playing super, super conservative there when you have a guy who wasn't like Tannehill. He didn't have 2 picks going into those drives. He was playing decent and they were hitting. And so I am concerned. You're right,
I'm
though.
also going to disagree with you. You can't call it all on McVay, because you're saying that at no point Stafford audibled in that 13 play sequence.
I mean, if it's a run play, I
Like,
don't think he's autoing into a run play.
you don't think they're trusting. You don't think they trust Matthew Stafford enough to give him the chance to switch it from a run play to a pass play at any point in a 13 play sequence. If that's the case, then they got the wrong guy. If they're bringing a veteran quarterback to push them over the edge and they go, "Hey, crunch time, don't change anything, Matthew," then that's a really bad message to be sending him.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
there's an element there of like the LeBron James criticism of, are you passing up the last shot? Are you being the good teammate, or are you passing it up? And look, in the end, he gets away with it. I think you're going, oh, 18. What was it? What were his stats? 28 for 38. Let's call it, if he hadn't had those 2 plays right at the end, and I'm it's always easy to say, can I take away this play, take away that play, and see it differently? But if instead he's 26 for 38 for 280 yards, and they've lost that game in overtime, I don't think you're going, good Matthew Stafford performance there. He pads it a little bit, crucially, at the end, and it's a good play. He's also helped, let's be real, by some terrible defensive play by the Bucs on a couple of plays. I mean, there are moments when you or I might have thrown a touchdown pass out there when you just have Cooper Kupp just get left wide open. and just totally, I mean, 3 majorly blown coverages.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Those were
o-
terrible.
on So, I mean, I don't know. We spoke about this during the game. I don't know how you can go in against in a game against Cooper Cup and not think at every crucial it's 3rd and 20, double coverage. Oh, they need 20, 30 yards to put themselves in with a realistic shot at a field goal, double coverage. And instead they've said, "Now, you know what we're going to do? On the final play of the game, basically, we're going to just trust our safety to pick him up. We're going to let him get the distance he needs, and then we're just going to trust our safety in one-on-one coverage against him, where you might just risk he gives away a penalty, because if he gets beaten, he might." And in the end, the one thing I have to question there, my question from that, I got 2 questions. Is at the end of Tom Brady, do we see him play again? And I'll make that question 1A. 1B for that is, do you think would your answer have been different if they hadn't had that comeback? Because I think mine is. I think his feelings will be a little bit different now than they would have been end of the 3rd quarter, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but which way you're leaning?
I think he doesn't come back if they just get blown out in
out.
that game. I think he goes,
See,
enough of this crap.
I think you can go either way, though, because maybe if he gets blown out, he thinks that is not the way to end it. I want to prove I can make a comeback, versus he made the comeback and now he can say, hey, you know what? Wasn't my fault. I came back. That defense sucks. So I proved I can still do it. I'm done. But no, I do think he comes back. And I think he comes back because this is a team that was right there to making the NFC Championship again. And they had a depleted team. I mean, you're missing Tristan Wirfs, who you could tell that was definitely a factor. Brady was getting pressured left and right there, because you're missing your all-pro Pro Bowl tackle. And additionally, I don't know what weapons they had on offense. You had Evans and you have Gronk, but not much else. They lost so much. So I think if they can add a little bit and build that team back and get out of the injury funk that they were in, they're competitive again. If this were the Packers, I think he retires, because he can see that they're not going to be able to get a better roster. But I think he can here.
But here's the issue: is you're calling it an injury funk. The reality is they're a really old team, and you know what rarely happens? I rarely go, hey, as that guy got older, he got injured less. So when you're a really old team, injuries are probably going to be an issue. Mike Evans, for example, has had massive injury problems over the course of his career. They've kind of been lucky, actually, that so far in the 2 postseasons he's been there, he's had a relatively healthy Mike Evans both time. He's had in this game, he had a relatively healthy Gronk. Can you count on that 12 months from now? And I mean, you're right. They're going to have to add some major weapons on offense because they lost. I mean, obviously, losing Godwin was a blow for them, and the Antonio Brown issue. And obviously, with Antonio Brown then resharing on Instagram a post of a photoshopped image of him walking off, waving at the fans when he left during that Jets game, but instead holding a poster that said "Bucks lose." It's hard to lose 2 major wide receiver threats, and kind of not be affected by it. But I guess part of the issue is they convinced a lot of players to join 2 seasons ago with the premise that come to play in Tampa Bay, we're going to be Super Bowl contenders, and you're going to take a pay cut, and you're probably going to win a Super Bowl. Now, for all those people who did that, they delivered on that promise. But now, if you're a player, are you looking at this and thinking, they might all be getting a little bit too old, and I might kind of join a retirement home here and find that I'm not going to win a Super Bowl, but I took a pay cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I listen, with Tom Brady, I won't put anything past him. I can see either option being out there, but the level he's playing at is still a great level. And I don't think he's going to retire because he can't play. It's going to be, does he want to do it anymore? Is it worth continuing to pursue this? What more does he have left to prove?
I think he's coming back, just to say.
I think he is too.
But,
I think he is too. The last
and
thing...
I think if he hadn't... Well, just to say, I think no, but I think if he was, I think he would have retired after the game. I don't think he does a postseason retirement. I think he would have known there and then, this is it. I feel like he would have gone into this postseason thinking, whenever this ends, I'm done. And I think he would have gone into a press conference after the game and said, I'm calling it quits.
Yeah. I agree with that. The last takeaway from this game is another question I have about McVay that I want to see your input on here. So Cam Akers had a costly fumble in the first half. And at the time, it didn't matter as much because they were up so much. But Chris Collinsworth, who was announcing this game, makes the point of saying, I really like what McVay's doing here in that he's putting Cam Akers back on the field to show him that he has faith in him and that he is the right guy to continue being the running back for this team. Now, that backfires because he then has a pretty terrible fumble again in a time when you know you have to hold on to the ball. Cam Akers in college has been known as a fumbler. That was his big knock in the draft, was that he had a lot of fumbles in college. So this is not something out of the blue. He's known for doing that. So that's already on the surface. You know he's a known fumbler.
I was also known as a fumbler in college.
Now, this to me brings up another coach in Bill Belichick, where he has, when someone fumbles, just bench them the rest of the game. What would you have done in that scenario? Would you have been the McVay or would you have been the Belichick?
I don't think you can isolate with either of those approaches. I don't think you can isolate a single player. If you're the Belichick, you have to always be the Belichick. You have to, whenever someone fumbles, they're out. Whenever you make a boneheaded play, you're out. Because if you then decide, hey, that was a really big time to make a bad play, now you're out, that's a really bad message to send to a player, because then it is going to be difficult to bring him back into the fold later on when you need him. I think McVay made the right decision.
So I just want to fill in the rest of that. This is an instance, though, where now you're going into that fourth quarter knowing you're going to run it. I mean, he ran 11 of 13 times.
Yeah.
So you're going in, I'm going to be running the ball.
But look, if unless in that moment McVay had made the decision, he's done for the playoffs, basically. Unless you can make that decision, then you have to keep him out there and you have to give him another chance. You know, you got to get him back on the horse, because otherwise, how are you going to tell him next week against the Niners, hey, your ball's back in your hands now? And you didn't trust me in the fourth quarter of the last game, though. I trust you now. Unless you make a mistake, then I won't trust you again in this game either. And we can rinse and repeat this one all season long. You know, I think they've probably made the decision that if they're going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to need him. And so then you have to keep trusting him and you have to keep showing him that you believe in him, because he might make the play that wins you the Super Bowl. And you know that will be what gets said. If he suddenly comes up with a game-winning touchdown next week or some massive play next week or in 3 weeks' time, people will be talking about, it all goes back to McVay when he had faith in him, even though he wasn't having a great second half.
Yeah. And then I see the headline of Cam Akers fumbles when they're up by 7 trying to run the clock out. And people go, should have pulled the Belichick and benched him from the beginning. So let's go to the last game now. Bills, Chiefs. I'll start by asking, we said maybe this isn't the greatest game ever. Is this the best quarterback performance you've ever seen from two quarterbacks in one game?
No. I think Josh Allen was kind of more impressive a week before. I know the stat line, which you're going to read out to me for both of them, is amazing. In both instances, you kind of have to analyze sometimes the yard after the catch a little bit. It's certainly in the Mahomes instance. It's hard to be like, oh, wow, it's 80 yards for Mahomes, but it's a 10-yard completion and then Tyreek Hill just being 9 times faster than everyone else on the field and just blowing by people. But I also think some of the defense down the stretch from both teams was highly questionable, to say the least. And look, and again, I'm not trying to be negative. They both played extremely well. It was a lot of fun to watch, and those final 2 minutes were incredible. I mean, I will probably never see anything like that again in the final 2 minutes of an NFL game. Certainly not in the final 2 minutes of an NFL playoff game. I think that's a fairly reliable prediction to make. But, they both played well. It was fun. But I think I've seen better performances.
I don't think I have. That to me, goes down as one of the best back and forths I've ever seen. I will say out of this, huge Mahomes fan, always riding the Mahomes train here, but Josh Allen was the better QB that game. Just the way he carried that team on those drives in the fourth quarter when they needed plays. It wasn't just the throwing. I mean, there was a few times where I think it was like the 3rd and 5 play, or I forget which one it was, where they desperately needed the yards. And you can tell Josh Allen got to the line and just said, like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself, and just took it and ran for it. And he did it a few times. And
it's not backyard football. I'm not sure. I think it might be a little bit more complicated. But
I think some of it, though,
look, I think
there was a few plays that
I think
he put the game in his hand more.
I think he was willing to do the Greg Jennings there and put the team on his back, but I don't think he's going to the line of scrimmage and just saying, "Get out of my way, boys. This is I got this one." But look, I agree with you. I think he made, just because he has to do it with his feet and through the air, and he made some crucial plays with his, on 4th downs when it was game over if he didn't pick them up and stuff. He made some big plays. And, look, it was an incredible ending to a good game, and they can both walk away. I mean, if you're Josh Allen, you got to feel terrible, because there has to be an element there of you feel like you gave it your best shot and it still wasn't enough.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're
what
Josh
I did
Allen,
enjoy,
I don't know how. You just have to sit there in silence for like a few days, just wondering. There's literally nothing else I could have done. I scored a touchdown on all but 2 drives. Like, what else can I possibly do here?
what I did enjoy, though, was the fact that the game-tying field goal from a stat you've probably seen, but from the Chiefs, took 13 seconds for them to get into field goal position, compared with the 14 seconds that Dak Prescott ran off the clock the week before against the Niners with his scramble. So, and look, I think that's the one moment where I give less credit to the offense. The fact that the Bills let the Chiefs get into field goal position on doing what you would have expected them to do. It's one thing if they make a crazy player, but if you told me, hey, who do you think they're going to throw to on these 2 passes? Maybe Hill and Travis Kelce? Those were the obvious options, and they did exactly what you would expect them to do. How did you feel about I'm assuming you've also seen it, the Andy Reid quote that he said to
Unreal.
Patrick Mahomes before he went?
I was going to bring it up.
For those who don't know, Andy Reid, before they went back out onto the field for the game-tying field goal, told Patrick Mahomes, when things are looking grim, be the Grim Reaper. Now, here's the thing: is how long do you think he's had that prepared for?
I don't know, but that is right out of like a blockbuster Michael Bay movie. That is movie level quote. That was epic. One of the best quotes I've heard in a very long time, coming from Andy Reid on the sideline of the Chiefs game. That was awesome. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that is so cool. When they make the film about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, that will be the quote that wins them the Oscar.
And how many Chiefs fans do you think are getting that as a tattoo at some point over the next 6 months?
I'm getting the shirt tomorrow. I'm sure there are already shirts out there.
Oh, there must be a shirt, yeah.
It's just Mahomes holding the Grim Reaper, whatever hell that's called. Not stick.
No, it's better. It's better with Andy Reid.
Oh,
just
no, because But yeah, so going back to that sequence, the part that everyone is actually dissecting is the kicking off into the end zone, and whether you would have squib kicked it to at least take 3 seconds off the clock, because at that point you're limiting it probably to one play. If you could have just gotten 3 to 4 seconds off that clock, they only have one play before they need to get into field goal range. Now, what's interesting,
or two very different looking plays, I would say. If they have maybe two plays, but they don't have the ability to have the yards after the catch that they had in both instances. Those get removed. You got to throw
no,
to the sideline. You got to get down instantly
yeah,
as soon as you catch the ball. It changes that.
yeah. What's interesting is when they asked McDermott about it, his response was, "It's on me for the execution." And people are kind of thinking either one, this means that in the frenzy of everything going on, it kind of got lost in the conversation, or maybe he did say to squib kick it and the kicker just kind of had a blackout moment and just kicked it deep. Because to say execution would mean you told someone to do something and they didn't execute what you told them.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to read into. Here's the thing: is I don't know. I think there's a middle ground between what people would think of as a traditional squib kick and what I think they should have done, which is you kick the ball like 5 yards short of the end zone.
Not to the
You
end
still
zone.
get it deep, yeah, and you make sure they got to return it, which can be at risk, obviously, because the Chiefs have good returners. So there's always a risk there that someone takes it to the house, and then people are critical of you there as well. The reason why I think it was a particularly bad decision is because in the moment it felt stupid. And I think sometimes when we do sports analysis, it's very easy to, have 2020 hindsight and Monday morning quarterback and kind of be like, well, I wouldn't have done that. But in the moment, put it this way, anyone who plays Madden, they're not kicking it out for a touchback there. They
Oh,
know exactly what they're doing.
even Romo and the other announcer, said, "Oh, here comes the squib kick." It was pretty obvious that everyone thought that was what was going to happen and what you should have done, and they didn't. And then getting to those two plays, I am 100% with you, and I think the rest of America is with you. You have two guys on that team
Well,
that are getting the ball, Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. I'm okay with them playing a deeper coverage, but at the same time, you have to put a man on each of them. Have everyone deep if you want deep, but then also put a person on just those two. And that eliminates 90% of your chances to lose there. And the other fact is they're rushing. At one point, I think they were rushing 4 and even 5, but there's only 13 seconds. You really don't need to rush him. I get if you get a sack, the game's over. But at the same time, if you don't rush him, it might give him a little sense of security, and he might just sit back there and run another 2-3 seconds off the clock. So the fact that you're putting 4 is kind of a mistake. You could have taken 2 of those guys and made them coverage guys and then put them on Hill and Kelsey and make them run longer plays than having them have a 20-yard cushion and instantly giving it to them and having them run as quick as they can and get down. It was just that was just bad play calling by the defense.
yeah, the rushing, you're right. I mean, because
yeah.
he's going to get the ball out of his hand in 2 seconds anyway, because he has to, because he doesn't have a choice through the clock. So yeah, you're 100% right there that you're not changing what he's trying to do by trying to get pressure on him, because in all reality, the pressure, by the time the pressure gets to him, the ball needs to be gone for the Chiefs to be making the right play. So yeah, you may as well have the extra man in coverage. But, and I guess the big talking point is, which seems to pop up at least once a year over the course of the playoffs, but
And with the Chiefs.
playoff rules. And with the Chiefs. Now, this is the interesting thing. The Chiefs fans were so critical of the playoff rules. What was that, 3 years ago when they lost to the Patriots in that great game without getting the ball back in overtime? And now it'll be interesting to see if they are equally vociferous in their calls for the playoff rules to still change, even though they benefited from them. Because if you are a believer in that these rules should be changed, it's a lot better to do it when you've benefited than when it looks like it's a bunch of sour grapes.
Yeah. So let me go through our buddy Bill Barnwell has already posted his article about this. and let me go through the potential scenarios that you could change the overtime, and you tell me whether you like them or not. So the first one that he only actually briefly mentions is the college football rules, where each team gets the ball on the 25-yard line and you each get a shot to go, and you just keep going till someone gets stopped. Do you like that?
Well, to be clear, for people unfamiliar with those college rules, you have to match or beat your opponents what they have achieved on their possession.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of if they kick a field goal, you can kick a field goal, then you go to another round, and then eventually, right, they require that you have to go for 2 point after.
Yeah, and after the third round, it just becomes a 2-point conversion. But let's not put that rule. Let's go before they did that. Each team gets the ball on the 25-yard line. You get a shot to either score a touchdown, field goal, or nothing, and then the other team gets to go and do what they can. And if after that first go of each team, if there's a winner, that's the game. If it's tied, still you do it again. Do you like that as an option?
Personally, I think it's very exciting. I think it's probably the best option.
Okay. Next option would be playing just another period, whether that be a 10-minute or another 15-minute period, a full time. So not sudden death, but you play to the end of the clock.
I think that's better than the current approach, but I don't love it. Just because, it kind of seems a little bit unfair on teams that are then in the playoff scenario. You're going to have to play a week later, and you're getting a whole, that's a lot more strain going on your body. You're also in a scenario where maybe you rush out to a 14-point lead in 4 minutes, 5 minutes of overtime, and then you just got to play another 5 or 7 minutes while the other team just takes shots at you, and if you get an injury with 30 seconds left in a game that pretty much was over at the beginning, 2 or 3 minutes into the overtime period, I think that's probably going to be the worst option, but maybe it's going to go.
The other issue there, too, is what happens if that period ends in a tie as well. Then you have to continue playing, and now you're getting to a point where players are going to be exhausted and are going to get injured. I think you could maybe do a 10-minute overtime and play it to the end of the 10, but then if you do have that tie at the end, it defeats the whole purpose. So that isn't the best. The next one is you keep the rules as they are. So this is when we don't have to change the rules, but it's already predetermined that whoever won the opening game coin toss will have choice of what they're going to do in the overtime. So going into that fourth quarter, you know who's going to be getting the ball.
I don't like that quite as much. I mean, I do in the sense that it obviously then I think that gives that might give an unfair advantage to the other team towards the end of the game. So say they put themselves in the scenario where, we've just tied the game with 15 seconds left.
Now, are they the team getting the
ball?
No,
we're not. And they're the team not getting the ball. Okay. They suddenly go, well, we definitely need to go for 2. Like it puts them, in terms of the analytics, it puts you in a much more favorable position then to make in a way that I don't think would be totally fair. And I guess you could come back, someone could counter that by saying, well, you should be able to stop a team from a successful 2-point conversion. But it kind of does put them in a position where they know it's kind of like, knowing it's fourth down territory. You've kind of added this extra element where it might give you a slight advantage at certain moments in time. But I don't love that at all. I would prefer that at least there, what you were making the decision is you'd have to choose. Most teams obviously want to defer and get the ball to start the second half. In the very least, then that should come with a penalty of, and you don't get the ball if overtime comes. Do you see what I mean? Because almost every team would say there's the big benefit of maybe having the kind of back-to-back end of the first half, getting the ball in the second half. At least this way you would say, well, the cost of that is if this does go to overtime, we're getting it second.
Okay. All right. Now here's an interesting one. He suggests the play to 8 points rule. So the first team to score 8 points wins. Now, the advantage of this would be you'd keep the same rules as they are now. And let's say the Chiefs drove down the field and scored. They would then have to convert a 2-point conversion on top of that touchdown, which right now the conversion rate is about 60 to 70%. So the fact you'd have to score a touchdown and then also get that brings it down to around 50% chance of winning for the team getting the ball. Whereas right now, the chance of winning, I think, is like 57-ish%, the team who gets the ball first. So that extra addition of having to get a 2-point conversion would bring it down to just about even. Do you like that idea?
I think that's better than the current situation, yeah. I don't think that's a perfect solution, but I do think that's an improvement and a good way of saying you're not necessarily going to drag the game on. I'd also be interested to see how often teams went for 2. I mean, I guess you may as well because you're still, if you get the ball back, I'd almost prefer 9, like requiring that you had to have 2 possessions. Because there's no reason to not go for 2 then, if you see what I mean. Because if you're not successful, a field goal will still win you the game the next time you get it. So there's never going to be a scenario where the team in overtime thinks, "Ooh, no, we want the 7, and we're going to trust our defense now for a little bit."
And then the last option put forward is the option that the Ravens had put forward earlier this year, or last year, sorry, which is the spot and choose. And in this scenario, the first team chooses what yard line from which the overtime will begin, and then the other team decides whether they will begin that game on offense or defense. Does that make sense?
I understand the premise,
Yeah.
and it would get into an interesting bit of kind of game theory as to whether you choose a sort of advantageous position or you hope that the other team takes it and you back your defense, or whether or not you put yourself backed up on your own 1 yard line but you get the ball. I think it's not really too complicated, but I think it is too complicated. If you see what I mean, like
for the fans or for the coaches who can't even make simple timeout calls.
But I mean, also think of how often we see players mess up coin tosses and officials mess up coin tosses. So you're gonna have the coin toss, and then do they like break away to huddle and then try and explain it, and then the referee is like saying it out loud, but he messes it up, and it's a whole, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a very complicated idea, but I think it's probably too complicated to be a clean solution.
Now let me give you this scenario. Say that was the rule yesterday, and the Chiefs were first to choose, and they said, "I want to put the ball on the 1 yard line." If you're the Bills, do you say we'll take defense or we'll take offense?
I think you take defense.
Really?
I think 10 onwards, I would have taken offense. But I just think you do, when you are backed up in your own end zone, it does create another element of pressure. I mean, because you also then throw in a safety, it's game over, right?
Yeah.
So you're suddenly putting yourself in a position where an offensive penalty in your own end zone or just a really good defensive play, it's game over. And then you look kind of stupid that you decided to put the ball there and lost on a safety. But I think...
So let's play game theory. What's the closest to the end zone you'd have to be? This exact game, Bills Chiefs, you're the Bills. What's the closest you would be where you would say we'll take offense? 5 yard line?
I think 6 and onwards.
It's so difficult.
No, but I'm trying to think
6.
That's game theory. And this is why it would be a great thing to watch. No, I'm just trying to think of how far. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not starting a play in my end zone.
Yeah,
basically.
I see what you're saying.
And like even on the 5, you do a 5-step drop. You're there. I'm trying to make sure at no point I've got my quarterback. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. And then the question becomes, if you decide to do that, is it immediately 4 down territory? If I take the ball on my own 6, am I telling myself we're not punting from the 8 because we're not giving them the ball on their own 40, only needing a field goal
in that specific game,
or just in almost any game?
Well, I mean, if it were the Packers Niners, maybe that's a little different. If it had been that game.
I would have said no, because then But no, because in those weather conditions, definitely not with the Packers special teams that they were playing then. I'm not punting. But also in those weather conditions, then you're thinking, what, you're going to get to the 50-yard line on a punt? And they're going to think we need 15 yards to be in position to win this game. It would be interesting, but it's just too complicated.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I would hate to have to hear TV announcers and radio broadcasters who are so terrible with analytics and are so anti-analytics try and tell me what the smart move is when they have absolutely no idea. It would just anger me so much.
Or more to the point, to have to sit through them explaining it at the beginning of every overtime, even after that's been the rule for 7 years. I mean, we still have it explained to us as if we're absolute morons that touchdown wins the game, but if it's a field goal or less, then the Bills get the ball back, and then next score wins. It's like you don't need to, like, I've watched football before. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, this has been the rule for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, we've all experienced this. It's not like before when a field goal would have won the game.
Yeah.
It used to be
that was 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's like we've got it. Most people are probably watching going, I didn't know that used to be the rule. That's crazy.
Yeah. You're getting close to a point that a lot of people are always saying that. But it's just when they try and speak about analytics too, it angers me because what they keep bringing up now, the biggest talking point is about Staley, the head coach of the Chargers, and how he had so many failed fourth downs. And, that's why you can't trust analytics because look at Staley and the Chargers. They're sitting home. And it's like, no, you idiot. He did not follow analytics. There are so many articles out there that show that he was going against the analytics and going for fourth downs. So if anything, you're proving analytics correctly by saying he's not there because he didn't follow them, but they don't understand that. And it's like fourth down, he went for it and they're out of it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's just, so adding that concept of it would just like Tony Romo's head might explode. So yeah, it's a good idea in theory, but it would never work, I don't think.
Nick Kyrgios can't keep himself out of the drama at the Australian Open, even though he was knocked out in the singles. I don't know if you saw that after his doubles victory on Friday, the trainer and the coach of his opponents went into the locker room and threatened to fight him. Asked if he wanted to go outside and have a fight, which he is the one who then spoke about afterwards, laughing about it and saying it all got a little bit heated and how funny it was. But he's obviously still much loved by the tennis community.
Was he at fault for this? I mean, was there a reason for them to go in there? Was he doing something to them the entire match that aggravated them?
I think he's someone who regularly and easily aggravates people. But do I think as far as I can tell, I don't think he was doing anything that justified someone coming in after a match in a Grand Slam and threatening to and asking if he wanted to go outside for a fight.
Nothing more than usual.
I don't think he didn't. No.
I mean, people have reputations in sports that, they can't get rid of. And he is like at the top of that list. No matter what he does, he will have this reputation to his grave. I mean, in fact, on his grave, it might say something about how much of an asshole he was while playing tennis.
Now, speaking a little bit of assholes, and my final topic from the weekend, but I don't know if you have
this
more.
Could go really south really quickly.
No, it's actually a player who will be watching next weekend. Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if you saw some of the news that came out or discussion that came out about his contract this weekend.
So good. This is so good. Do you have the numbers before we start this? Okay.
I have the numbers.
Because I do too. Okay.
So Odell Beckham Jr. was one of a number of players who has opted to be paid in Bitcoin over US dollars. And so chose for his Rams salary to be paid entirely in Bitcoin. Now, just because of the sort of boom in cryptocurrencies and how excited anyone gets when anyone owns a cryptocurrency or shows a modicum of interest in cryptocurrency, people gave him so much credit for making this decision. And, what a step in the right direction by choosing to be paid in a decentralized currency. Now, this all looks very good when the price of Bitcoin is going up and up and up. turns out it doesn't look so good when the price of Bitcoin plummets as it has done over the past few days. So when Odell Beckham Jr. he signed a $750,000 contract with the Rams on November 12th. At that point, he locked in his exchange rate between dollars and Bitcoins, which means at the time the Bitcoin was worth $64,293. Yesterday it was worth $35,400. All of that means that his $750,000 salary has effectively been turned into a salary of $412,953.
Oh, but give us the kicker, Eddie. Give us the kicker.
What makes matters worse for him is that he is taxed on the rate he's taxed on is on the $750,000, not on what the value of the Bitcoin is. Meaning that he, with federal and California state tax, his tax rate will be 50.3%. All of that means that Odell Beckham Jr. has so far made $35,703 playing for the Rams.
Oh, that is so good. So the first caveat to that is, in the same sense, he still will be taxed 50% on that 750. So it's not like it's 35 to 750. It's really 35 to about 375, which is still a significant drop. It's about 90% less than what he would be making. But like, that's crazy. The only thing I'll say here is he clearly has an endorsement from Cash App, because when he announced he was going to Bitcoin, he made this whole thing about, I'm going to full Bitcoin, get on Cash App and do this and that, hashtag Cash App money. So I'm assuming he's getting a decent endorsement from them. I don't know if it's 300,000 to bring him back to what he would normally be making, but still, this is a great instance of athletes trying to be savvy and not knowing what they're really doing, and it just backfiring miserably.
And there's also two other elements here, right? Which is his career earnings are over $80 million. So I don't think he's going to be too upset about all of this. And that's not throwing in his sponsorship deals and stuff. That's just purely what he has made from his NFL contracts. And also, there's no need for him to sell this Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He'll obviously see this as an investment. So he's certainly in a position where he can sit on it, and he'll be laughing at all of us if, 6 months from now, Bitcoin's at $100,000. He'll be telling us how stupid all of us were to have laughed at the fact that for a short period of time, it looked like he'd made an unwise decision. So, it's not quite so straightforward, but it definitely does show some of the risks when people were so eager to congratulate every player who decided to switch to Bitcoin, either partially or completely, for their salary. This is a kind of cautionary tale as to why maybe sticking in US dollars or pounds or wherever it is you're based might be a little bit safer. Not necessarily smarter, but certainly safer.
Yeah, it reminds me of, there's a lot of celebrities right now that have been accused of kind of endorsing specific cryptocurrencies or
you mean like Matt Damon?
Yes.
Who's out there just on commercials?
No, but there are other ones. No, but there are a few that promoted a cryptocurrency that they were heavily invested in, and then it peaked because of their social media presence, and then they instantly sold their shares or their stocks or whatever you want to call it. And
their cryptocurrency.
Yeah. But some of it was they had like the stock in whatever was selling it. I think what was one of them as well.
The company that created the coin.
Yeah, was another one. But some of it was just straight Coinbase. There's like a few celebrities now that they've been accusing of doing this. And it really reminds me of, this is a quote that our friend Tim loves. When I was on the Penn State track team, one of the perks of being on the team is there was like a little laundry ring. And every day after practice, you'd throw your dirty clothes on the ring, and then you'd come back the next day, and boom, your workout clothes are instantly clean. we were having an issue where people were just coming in and putting their normal laundry on the ring. So there'd be like 4 days worth of laundry on the ring. And our coach sat us all down. And one of the talking points for the day was, you guys can't be doing this. You're getting a nice service, but you're abusing it. And the one person stood up and she said, well, I think it's just kind of being an entrepreneur and making the most of the situation. And our coach said, no, that's not being an entrepreneur. That's being an asshole. And that's kind of what this makes me feel like. Where they think they're being entrepreneurs, but they're just doing illegal activities.
Well, I mean, it's just, and it's true. Look, the celebrity endorsements of cryptocurrencies or NFTs, all of it, it's a little bit like great to be decentralized and unregulated. The thing that then becomes a challenge is normal laws that would apply to insider trading and pumping and dumping kind of don't apply anymore. And so at the end, the only people they're pumping and dumping is the general public. But I
wish we had Sam on still.
But well, he started pumping and he dumped us. But I think it's questionable to have celebrities being able to openly. I mean, even the Elon Musk thing, right? He can say something about how either Tesla is going to start accepting Bitcoin, or say just something positive. If he just tweets, a cryptocurrency with a little eye emoji, that thing shoots up in value. I mean, it's the level of control he has over those markets is unbelievable. And so what it just means is any day he can wake up in the morning and go, you know what, I want to make a quick buck. I'm going to choose this random cryptocurrency. I'm going to buy a bunch of it now. And then I'm going to send out a message being like, oh, look at that. And then by the end of the day, it will probably have quadrupled in value. I can sell, made my money, and I don't care about it anymore. And all these people who thought they were following me because they think I'm some, I'm the sort of Nostradamus of cryptocurrencies. And I did like that he took a shot at NFTs the other day, but they're going to be the ones who get left holding the bag when everything collapses. That being said, if there is a cryptocurrency that wants the Big Chill podcast to officially endorse it, we will throw our full weight behind it episode after episode until you stop paying us, and then we will forget that you existed.
Forget to the moon. We'll go right to Saturn.
We'll call it Samcoin. We'll start it now.
So we know that's going to be pumped and dumped.
We will pump that thing relentlessly.
As a last topic, I kind of just wanted to ask you, Ozark season 4 dropped. Are you an Ozark fan?
Yeah, I think I'm 4 episodes in.
Wow.
So far. It
just dropped on Friday with the weekend of football, Eddie.
Yeah, I think maybe 3.5 episodes in so far.
Wow, I'm impressed. We almost watched one last night, but I was just so exhausted from all the football, and then we had the hockey championships. So I was like, let's start Monday.
I watched an episode today, and I think we watched an episode Saturday afternoon and an episode yesterday.
I do like the fact that it's going to be 2 seasons, whether it's called 2 seasons or not, but they have it all filmed already, which is nice. So I think the idea is they're going to release this, wait a few months, and then release the final episodes instead of a show like Stranger Things, which releases a season and then you have to wait 5 years for the next season to come out.
It's good, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm not going to knock it. And I'm enjoying this season so far. It is always one of those things, right, which is these shows, the kind of premise starts off with a scenario that you can imagine being somewhat realistic. It's like the Breaking Bad approach.
No, you got to give me a better one. I know which one you were going to say.
What? Which one?
It's like Homeland. Homeland started off with a very decent idea and then just went absolutely insane, along with the main character.
Yeah, and Ozark hasn't gone quite that far where you can still kind of try to imagine maybe, but you have watched this evolution of a guy from being an accountant who was just really good at fiddling the numbers to now being a kind of mini drug lord who's kind of manipulating the whole world around
Open up casinos.
Yeah, exactly. And look, it's enjoy. I mean, I enjoy it, but it is always a shame to me when you kind of think the show started kind of somewhat grounded in reality, and now it's got to a point where you're just like. Another good one for this was House of Cards. House of Cards starts off
Yeah.
as showing you, oh, look, these are the silent people behind the scenes who are pulling the strings and you don't realize it, but this is what the world of politics is really like. And then a little bit later, it's like, oh, you know how this guy started the show by telling you he didn't really want the sort of fake power of being the president. He wanted the real power of controlling the president. It's like, no, now he wants to be president too. And now he's just openly murdering people, pushing them in front of trains,
Oh,
like
I
going
was
off.
gonna say, listen, I'm gonna drop a spoiler, but the minute you throw someone in front of a train as a politician, no, I'm sorry.
And don't get recognized at all in Washington, D.C., a place where people really know, you know what I mean? Like,
And CCTV is everywhere.
yes. Yeah. Plus a number of other really weird things that you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but
I
anyway.
actually stopped watching House of Cards shortly after that. And I stopped watching Homeland shortly after she like coerced and sexually assaulted a 15-year-old Middle Eastern man. and then
Yeah.
and then sent him to his death 3 episodes later. Sorry for the spoiler alerts if you are really keen on watching Homeland, but that's
you're
where
10
I was
years
like,
behind.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think House of Cards I definitely gave up on before it finished, and Homeland, I can't remember which season it was, but I also gave up on. I think I gave up on it once. Was his name Cody? The main character, whatever his name was. When he died, I think I was totally out on the show.
Brody, Nicholas Brody.
Close enough.
It's close.
It's not bad for a show I haven't watched in 7 years.
How many seasons of Homeland do you think there are?
Oh, a ridiculous number. It only just ended, right? I think there's like 13 or 14 seasons.
There's 8, but even to me, that's ridiculous.
But it only ended 18 months ago, right? Just before the pandemic, maybe it ended.
Yeah, April 26, 2020.
Yeah. So, wow. Maybe this is, look, we stopped making Homeland and a global pandemic broke out. We need to bring back Homeland.
That show just got off the rails real quick. Well, it's also another good example is, which I know is a show you like, Prison Break, where it's like the whole premise is prison breaking out of prison.
You think I like Prison Break, or that was sarcasm?
No, I think you love it.
No, I'm not a Prison Break person. I find Prison Break, the thing that annoys me about Prison Break is like the go-to, we discussed this previously, it's like what footballers, as in Premiership footballers and stuff, when they get asked to name their favorite TV show, they always say Prison Break, because I think it's one of those things that it's like, it feels like it's a tougher, like a more macho series choice than it really is. Like both Prison Break and Entourage, people choose because they think it's kind of like a manly TV show, but in reality, it's not. Like all of the drama, if you change the vehicle that was delivering it to here's a show about high school girls, the drama would be exactly the same. Like the script could be almost identical, but it would be like, I'm never going to watch that now.
All right, well, I guess that's enough TV bashing for one day. Although we started off positive by saying Ozarks is good.
Yeah, no, Ozark is good. But yeah. Yeah, no, I'll see you Thursday when we do our preview of the final non-depressing weekend of the NFL, really.
Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, the really sad part is, like we said, that was probably the greatest round of NFL playoffs ever played. So you're going down from that high. It's going to make it even worse.
Who knows? Maybe they'll one up themselves in the next round.
But there's only 2 games, so even if they one up themselves, it's only 2.
But with maybe 17 periods of overtime.
Actually, let me ask you this as a final send-off. If right now, well, I want to preface this by saying, let's say you're not a 49ers fan. Okay. If right now the NFL offered the fans we'll stop playing the playoffs, and instead of a Super Bowl, we'll just do a best of 7 Bills versus Chiefs, and the Chiefs are 1 up. What would you rather watch?
I'd still rather watch the normal playoffs.
Really?
Yeah, because there's no guarantee that they deliver the same level of entertainment. Like we've seen the Bills and the Chiefs play each other before. It's not always that good.
It's
And
close.
Yes, they are both. But who knows? We might get that this weekend. The Chiefs and the Bengals had a super exciting game.
They did
4 weeks ago. So that was almost as exciting as that Bills game. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I can't wait to make my picks.
Me neither.
All right. Talk to you later.